The Minnesota wind feels like 1,000 tiny needles stabbing my face. It's 5 degrees below zero, and I'm standing on the driveway, watching my own mother lock the front door of our family estate. Through the frosted glass, I can see them, my brother Brad and his high society friends, clinking crystal glasses filled with $200 wine. Mom's voice crackled through the Ring doorbell, cold and sharp. "Go away, Mark. We don't feed poor losers. You're embarrassing Brad in front of his boss." She thought she was protecting their luxury Christmas. What she didn't know was that the $15,000 catering bill for that fancy dinner just hit my phone. I stared at my banking app, my thumb hovering over the report fraud button. They wanted a night to remember. Fine. I'm about to give them a night they'll never be able to afford. To understand why I was standing in the snow, you have to understand the lie my family has lived for the past 3 years, in my mother's eyes. My older brother Brad is the golden boy. He wears tailored suits, drives a leased BMW, and works as a high-level account manager, or so he says. In reality, Brad's lifestyle is a house of cards built on my sweat. I'm the black sheep. I'm a senior software engineer for a Silicon Valley firm, but because I work remotely from my cramped apartment in a hoodie and sweatpants, my mother thinks I'm struggling. To her, if you aren't at an office by 9 a.m., you aren't a real professional. She's called me a freelance failure so many times I've lost count. But here's the secret: I'm the one who paid off Mom's $40,000 medical debt when her insurance denied the claim. I'm the one who sends $2,000 every month to help with the mortgage, which Mom secretly funnels straight into Brad's credit card payments so he can maintain his executive image. I've been their silent ATM, hoping that one day they'd love me for who I am, not for what I provide. 6 months ago, Mom begged me to help Brad. She said he was on the verge of a massive promotion and just needed a little help with his credit score to secure a new apartment. Like a fool, I added him as an authorized user on one of my high-limit travel cards. I told him it was for emergencies only. No shopping, no dinners, no luxury. He looked me in the eye, gave me a brotherly hug, and promised. That hug was the most expensive thing I ever bought. Fast forward to this Christmas. I wanted to surprise them. I didn't come empty-handed. I had 3 envelopes in my pocket containing first-class tickets for a family vacation to Hawaii. I wanted us to be a real family again. No talk of money, just us. When I pulled up to the house I basically pay for, I saw a fleet of luxury cars in the driveway, valet parkers, a red carpet leading to the door. Brad had hired a world-class catering team to host a private gala for his CEO and some wealthy investors. I tried to walk in, carrying my humble gift envelopes, but before I could even take off my coat, Mom intercepted me in the hallway, her face contorted as if she'd just smelled something rotten. She didn't look at my face. She looked at my worn-out sneakers and my old parka. "What are you doing here, Mark?" she hissed, her voice a low venom. "I told you we were having a private event. Brad's CEO is here. We can't have you lurking around looking like this. People will think we're related to a homeless person." I felt a lump in my throat. "Mom, it's Christmas Eve. I brought gifts. I thought we were having dinner." "We are," she snapped. "But not with you. Brad worked too hard for this image. Don't be selfish and ruin his big night with your presence. Now, leave quietly through the back. There's a McDonald's down the street. Here's $20. Go buy yourself a Happy Meal and stay out of sight." She shoved a crumpled $20 bill into my chest and pushed me toward the door. As the lock clicked into place, my phone vibrated in my pocket. A notification from my banking app. A transaction of $15,000 at Elite Holiday Catering has been authorized. The authorized user, Brad. The emergency, his ego. I stood there on the driveway, the crumpled $20 bill still clutched in my frozen hand. My brain was trying to process the sheer audacity of it all. $15,000. That wasn't just a dinner. That was a full-scale assault on my bank account. Through the grand bay window of the dining room, I saw the catering staff in their crisp white uniforms parading out silver platters, Wagyu beef, lobster tails, and bottles of vintage champagne that I knew cost more than Brad's monthly car payment. I looked at the phone screen again. The notification didn't lie. Brad hadn't just used the card for an emergency. He had planned this entire charade. He was literally buying his way into a higher social circle using my life savings as his personal slush fund. Suddenly, the front door swung open again. It was Brad. He wasn't coming to apologize. He was wearing a tuxedo that I recognized it was the one I'd bought for myself for a charity gala last year, which had mysteriously vanished from my closet during his last visit. He looked at me, not with guilt, but with pure, unadulterated annoyance. Mark? Are you still here? He barked, stepping onto the porch but staying careful not to let the cold air hit his expensive drink. I told Mom to get rid of you, my CEO, Mr. Henderson. Just asked who that shabby guy on the driveway was. You're making the whole neighborhood look bad. Brad, you just charged $15,000 to my card, I said, my voice trembling not from the cold, but from the sudden realization of who my brother really was. The elite catering charge, that was you, wasn't it? Brad didn't even flinch. He took a slow sip of his drink and smirked. So, what if I did? You're a software nerd. Mark, you sit in your room all day clicking buttons. You don't have a life. You don't have friends. And you certainly don't have an image to maintain. I'm out here making real moves. This dinner is an investment. When Henderson promotes me to senior VP, I'll pay you back. Maybe. You don't just borrow $15,000 without asking. Brad, that's fraud. Oh, fraud? Brad laughed. A sharp, condescending sound. Don't be dramatic. You added me as an authorized user. Remember? Legally. I can spend whatever I want. Besides, Mom said you owe us. Consider it back pay for all the years she had to deal with your social anxiety and your weird hobbies. You've always been a burden. Mark, the least you can do is fund one night where the rest of us can feel successful. At that moment, Mom appeared behind him, draped in a faux fur shawl. She leaned into the doorway, looking at me like I was a stray dog ruined her garden party. Is he still whining about money? She asked Brad. Then she turned to me. Mark, stop being so small-minded. Your brother is on the verge of greatness. You're just a bitter, lonely man who wants to drag everyone down to your level. If you mention that bill one more time, I'll tell the whole family you've been harassing us for money. Just go, now, before I call the police for trespassing. The sting of those words was worse than the Minnesota frost. Trespassing. At the house where I paid the property taxes, where I paid the heating bill that was currently keeping their greatness warm, I looked past them. Mr. Henderson was laughing inside, holding a plate of food that I had paid for. My family wasn't just stealing my money, they were stealing my dignity, my home, and my very identity to build a stage for a lie. Brad leaned in one last time, his breath smelling of expensive bourbon. Happy holidays, little brother. Thanks for the party. Oh, and don't bother calling the bank tonight. It's Christmas Eve. By the time you get through to a human, the party will be over. The food will be gone, and Henderson will already have my promotion papers signed. You lose. Again. He slammed the door. The sound echoed through the silent, snowy street. I stood there, staring at the heavy oak wood, feeling the last bit of warmth for my family extinguish inside me. Brad was right about one thing, it was Christmas Eve, but he was dead wrong about how banking apps work in the age of digital security. I didn't move for a long time. I just stood there, looking at that heavy oak door, listening to the muffled sounds of laughter and the clinking of silverware coming from inside. For years, I had been the fixer. If a bill was overdue, I fixed it. If Mom was crying, I fixed it. If Brad screwed up, I fixed it. But as the cold seeped through my boots and numbed my toes, a terrifyingly clear thought entered my mind. Who is going to fix me? I looked down at the crumpled $20 bill Mom had shoved at me. It was a joke, a slap in the face. I slowly smoothed it out, then folded it neatly and tucked it into my pocket. I wasn't going to spend it. I was going to keep it as a receipt, a record of exactly what my mother thought my soul was worth. A strange calm washed over me. The black sheep was done trying to fit into a flock that wanted him slaughtered. I walked back to my old, reliable sedan, but I didn't start the engine. Instead, I pulled out my laptop, my button-clicking tool, as Brad called it, and tethered it to my phone's hotspot. Brad was right about one thing: it was Christmas Eve. Most bank branches were closed, but he lived in a dinosaur age. He didn't understand the power of a private banking tier and a 24/7 priority support line for high-net-worth clients. I logged into my terminal. First, I looked at the Elite Holiday Catering authorization. It was still pending. In the banking world, pending is a grace period. It's the moment before the money officially leaves the vault. My fingers flew across the keys. I wasn't just a software nerd. I was a systems architect. I understood the architecture of consequences. I opened the chat with my private wealth manager. Within 30 seconds, I had a human on the line. "I need to report suspicious activity on my primary travel card," I typed. "An authorized user has made a high-value transaction exceeding the agreed-upon emergency limit. I suspect the card details have been compromised for non-authorized luxury services." I didn't stop there. I pulled up the security camera feed from my own apartment, the one where Brad had borrowed my tuxedo. I saved the clip of him entering with his spare key and leaving with my property. I also saved the recording of the Ring doorbell from 5 minutes ago, the one where Mom called me a loser and Brad admitted to using the card for an investment. I felt a cold shiver, but it wasn't from the snow. It was the feeling of a predator finally realizing he had the upper hand. I wasn't just going to stop the payment. I was going to trigger an automated fraud lockdown. In the U.S. financial system, when a card is flagged for fraud during a high-value event, the merchant is notified immediately if they can't produce a matching ID or a secondary form of payment. The service is considered unpaid, and the merchant's insurance requires them to involve local law enforcement to document the loss. I watched the pending status on my screen. My finger hovered over the final confirm button. I thought about the Hawaii tickets in my pocket. I thought about the years of being a ghost in my own family. "Are you sure you want to flag this transaction as unauthorized and deactivate all associated cards?" the prompt asked. I looked at the window one last time. Brad was standing there, laughing, pointing at something while Henderson patted him on the back. They looked so successful, so fancy. "Merry Christmas, Brad," I whispered. I hit enter. The screen flickered. Status transaction declined. Card terminated. Fraud alert sent to merchant. Now, the real show was about to begin. I didn't drive away. I put the car in park, leaned my seat back, and waited. I wanted a front row seat to see exactly how much $15,000 of greatness weighed when it came crashing down. I sat in the darkness of my car, the glow of my laptop screen the only light. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Inside the house, the atmosphere changed. I saw the head server, a tall man in a tuxedo, approach Brad's table. He wasn't carrying another bottle of wine. He was carrying a small black leather folder, the bill, through the window. I watched the pantomime of a disaster. Brad, with the flair of a man who thought he'd already won, pulled out my credit card. He didn't even look at it. He just handed it over while continuing to laugh at one of Mr. Henderson's jokes. The server walked back to the portable POS terminal near the buffet. I saw the exact moment the machine spat out the error. The server frowned, tried again, and then his face went pale. He picked up his radio and whispered something. 2 more servers, larger men who looked more like security, moved toward the exits. The head server walked back to Brad. He didn't hand the card back. He leaned in and said something. Brad's laugh died mid-air. He grabbed the card and started gesturing wildly, pointing at me, or rather, the spot on the driveway where I used to be. I could almost hear him shouting, "It's a mistake! Try it again! My brother is a loser! He must have done something." Then, the blue and red lights appeared. In a quiet suburban neighborhood like this, 2 police cruisers with their sirens off but lights flashing looked like a judgment from God. I watched the officers step out. At the same time, my phone started screaming. It was Mom. I didn't answer. Then a text from Brad. "Mark, you piece of SHT. What did you do? The card is declined and they're calling it fraud. Fix this now or I'm dead. I waited another minute. Then I stepped out of the car. I didn't run. I walked. I walked right up to the front door, through the red carpet, and pushed it open. The silence inside was deafening. Mr. Henderson and his investors were standing near the fireplace, looking deeply uncomfortable. The dining table was a mess of half-eaten lobster and expensive debris. In the center of the room, 2 police officers were flanking Brad, who was sweating through my tuxedo. Is there a problem? Officers, I asked, my voice calm, projecting clearly across the room. Mark! Mom shrieked, rushing toward me. She didn't hug me. She grabbed my arm and hissed. Tell them you gave Brad permission. He's being accused of credit card fraud and theft of services. Tell them it's your card. I looked at the lead officer. It is my card, but I never authorized a $15,000 party. In fact, I was just kicked out of this house because I was told I was too poor to be here. If I'm too poor to eat the food, I'm certainly too poor to pay for it. Brad's face turned a ghostly shade of gray. Mark, don't do this. Mr. Henderson is watching. I turned to Mr. Henderson. Sir, I'm Mark, the homeless-looking brother you were told about. I'm also the senior architect at the firm that handles your company's cloud security. Small world, isn't it? Henderson's eyes widened. He looked at Brad, then at me, then at the police. Cloud security. You're the lead architect we've been trying to headhunt for months. I am, I said. Then I turned back to the officer. Officer, I'd like to show you something. Here is the recording from the Ring doorbell 10 minutes ago, where my brother admits to using my card as an investment without my permission. And here is the footage of him stealing this very tuxedo from my apartment last week. The officer looked at the screen, then at Brad. Sir, you're using a card that has been flagged for fraud. The merchant is reporting $15,000 in unpaid services, unless someone here has another way to pay this bill right now. You're coming with us. Brad looked at Mom. Mom looked at her faux fur shawl. Neither of them had 15 cents, let alone $15,000. Wait, Mom cried, pointing at me. He has the money, Mark. Pay it. We're your family. Family. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the crumpled $20 bill. I walked over to the head server and handed it to him. This is for the breadsticks I didn't get to eat. As for the rest, I looked Brad dead in the eye as the officers reached for their handcuffs. You wanted to look like a big shot, Brad. Now you get to see what the big leagues look like. They're called the authorities. The click of the handcuffs was the most beautiful Christmas carol I had ever heard. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Brad didn't just lose his investment party. He lost everything. Mr. Henderson fired him on the spot, stating he couldn't have a fraudster and a thief handling client accounts. Without my monthly subsidies, the lease on Brad's BMW was terminated within weeks, and Mom's house, the one I'd been secretly keeping afloat, went into foreclosure. They tried to call. They tried to guilt-trip me. Mom even sent a sobbing voicemail saying she was just trying to help her boys. I didn't delete the messages. I just archived them, a reminder of a life I no longer lived. I realized that for years, I wasn't their son or brother. I was a utility bill they only noticed when the power went out. I spent my New Year's in Hawaii, alone, but for the first time in my life, not lonely. I sat on a balcony overlooking the Pacific, holding those 3 first-class tickets I'd bought. I watched the sunrise, then slowly. I tore the other 2 tickets into tiny pieces and let the ocean breeze carry them away. I'm still a button clicker. I still work in my sweatpants, but I moved to a high-rise in a city where nobody knows me as the Black Sheep. I learned a $15,000 lesson that night. You can't buy a family's love, but you can certainly afford to leave their toxicity behind. As for the crumpled $20 bill, I framed it. It hangs in my new office, right above my computer, a reminder that I'm not a poor loser. I'm the one who finally knows my own worth.